Good morning. So today you guys are going to be finding the area of a parallelogram. Okay, so I apologize you don't have any papers to glue in today, but all of the notes that you're going to need, they are right here. So if you want to pause this to get your notes in, that would be great. Okay. So today, like I said, we're finding the area of a parallelogram. So I have some pictures of parallelograms right here. And I want you guys to think about what you notice about these parallelograms. What do you notice about them? If we could pause it, tell your partner 3 things you notice about a parallelogram. Okay. So I'm going to tell you what a parallelogram is. I hope that you said things like, looks like a slanted rectangle, it has 4 sides. Okay, so a parallelogram, it is a quadrilateral, which means it's a shape of 4 sides, in which both pairs on opposite sides are parallel. So if you guys notice, so like this long side and then this one, these two are parallel, and then the opposite sides, these 2 sides are parallel, okay? So we're working with parallelograms. There are actually multiple shapes that a parallelogram can take. It can look like this, it can look like a rectangle, it can look like a square. So let's go ahead and talk about finding the area of a parallelogram. All right, so to start with, here's the definition of area. You guys might want to highlight that. So the area is a number of square units needed to cover a figure without gaps or overlaps. All right, and I will definitely show you guys what that looks like tomorrow as well. To find the area of a parallelogram, there are 2 formulas that you can follow. There's A equals base times height. The area equals base times height, or you can do area equals length times width. This area equals length times width, that really applies with like rectangles and squares. So the go-to formula that I like for parallelograms is area equals base times height. So the way that you're going to find the area of a parallelogram is step 1, you're going to write the formula. Step 2, you're going to plug in the numbers, and then step 3, you're going to solve it line by line. And then remember from a couple weeks ago what we do with the awkward variables, okay? So I have a shape here. This shape is a rectangle. This is also a parallelogram. You can see that it has 2 sides that are parallel to each other that are the same height, and then 2 lines that are parallel from each other that are the same width, okay? And a parallelogram, it's 2 lines that are parallel to each other, okay? So like these would be 2 parallel lines versus like perpendicular lines. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this. So here's my parallelogram right here. I know that the vertical length of it is 8.3 meters, and then the horizontal length is 1.2 meters. So I'm going to plug in things that I know. I don't know what the area is yet, but I do know that my base down here is 1.2 meters, so I'm going to go ahead and write that in as 1.2 meters. And then my height is 8.3 meters. And when we are working on these, we're moving into geometry. Labels are so important. If you guys don't label it correctly, and if you don't label it correctly, then it's going to be incorrect, okay guys? So make sure you're labeling it correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and do my steps here. So my step 1 is write out the formula. So my formula is A equals base times height. Step 2, plug in my numbers. Well, I know that my base is 1.2, so I'm going to copy down my A equals, it's 1.2, and then I'm going to multiply that by my height, which is 8.3. Okay. So you guys know how I feel about it. If you can't mentally do the math the way that it is, write it out on the side, do a little bit of math on the side. So I have 8.3 times 1.2. Oh, there you go. 2 times, and remember we're working with decimals, sorry. So I'm going to put a 2 right here, so I remember I need to move my decimal 2 times over. So 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 8 is 16. I'm going to move to my second spot, so I'm going to have a 0, save my 1 spot. 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 8 is 8, and so now I'm just going to add 6 plus 0 is 6, 6 plus 3 is 9, 1 plus 8 is 9, and I need to move my decimal 1, 2 places over. And so my answer is going to be that my area equals 9.96 meters squared. So when working with area, we're talking about square units, okay? So if you guys notice, my base is just 1.2 meters. It's not squared yet, it's just meters because that's how wide it is. My height is 8.3 meters because that's how tall it is, but the whole inside of it is going to be 9.96 meters squared. It's like the definition said, how many square units we can get into it, okay? All right, so that's my first example. So my missing answer would be A equals 9.96 meters squared. All right. Okay. There's this. If you need to pause it and take a look at it one more time. I also have a second example. Okay, so in my first example, we were trying to find the area. In my second example, they already gave you the area. Okay, so here's another parallelogram. And remember that it's base times height. Okay, and so the height of this parallelogram is right here. It's in the middle. It's 2.5. You might also see it represented this way as 2.5 feet. Both ways are correct. It wouldn't ever be this slanted line, though. It needs to be how tall the parallelogram is, so the height. So here is the information that we know. We know that the area is 17.5 feet squared. Notice there's my square. The height is 2.5 feet, but I don't know what the base is. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out what I do know. Okay, so my area is 17.5 feet squared. My base, well, I don't know what my base is yet, but the height is 2.5 feet. All right, so I'm going to just follow the steps. Step 1, write the formula. Step 2, plug in the numbers. And then step 3, solve it line by line. Remember, awkward variables like to be by themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. I'm going to write out my formula. A equals base times height. All right, A equals base times height. And I'm going to plug in what I know. So I know that it's going to be 17.5 equals, well, I don't know what my base is, so I'm going to put in my variable. Base times 2.5. Okay, so now we're going to solve it line by line and remember awkward variables. So just a reminder for this, we want to find our variable. Who's awkward? Who are we solving for? We're solving for B. Who is B hanging out with? Well, B is hanging out with 2.5. How are they hanging out? They're multiplying by each other. And so to get rid of them, we need to do the opposite of multiply, which is division. So I'm going to divide the right side of the equal sign by 2.5. And it'll cancel out, and then I'm going to divide the opposite side, or the left side, by 2.5. Okay, and then when I get that answer, I'll be left with what B equals. So I actually do need to do some math on the side, so let's go ahead and write that out. So I'm going to have 17.5 divided by 2.5. Okay, so 17.5 divided by 2.5. Just a reminder, we can't ever divide when we have a decimal on the outside of the box, so we need to move the decimal one place to the right, so 2.5 becomes 25. And remember the mother named math, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other, so I'm going to move my decimal one place to the right. When I'm dividing with decimals, I just bring my decimal straight up. So I'm ready to start dividing now. 25 can go into 1 0 times. 25 can go into 17 0 times. And now here's the big question. How many times can 25 go into 175? Well, every time I see the number 25, I think of quarters. How many quarters would it take to have $1.75? Well, it would be 7 quarters. So 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 3 is 17. So we have 175 minus 175, which equals 0. So it comes out to an even number. And so my answer is going to be 7. 7 equals B. But I can go ahead and erase that because I did solve for b. So b equals 7, but don't forget the label. Oh, and don't let it look like there's a decimal there either. Okay, don't forget the label. And we're working in feet, so it's going to be 7 feet. So for my unknown, it's b equals 7 feet. Okay. So we are starting algebra today. Not algebra, I apologize, geometry today. And geometry was my favorite math that I ever did in school, was geometry. So you're going to do awesome at this. We'll talk about geometry some more tomorrow when I am there to talk about it with you. Good luck on your assignment today. You guys are going to do awesome. Just remember, please follow these steps. Write out your formula. Take the time, write it out. You're going to plug in your numbers and solve it line by line. Remember the awkward numbers. Please idiot-proof your work because that's how you will be successful. Good luck today, guys. You're going to do awesome.